Oh my gosh, I'm sorry about that. I was not even
It's
thinking
okay.
that that would happen, but now I'm under the shade, so it should be better.
Okay. Um, good. So I know it like froze up and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it needed to cool down. I guess it cooled down enough in that 5 seconds, so that's good.
Good. Um, so I'll just get right back into it, I
Yeah,
guess.
you were talking about his death.
Yeah, so he ended up dying at the age of 75 due to a ruptured appendix. And in 2013, so quite a while after his death, President Obama awarded him with the Presidential Medal of Freedom Award, which, I mean, like, that's a pretty big deal. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
really cool.
huge.
Yeah.
That's probably one of like the
Um,
highest awards you can get from the US, I'd think.
yeah, it's pretty high up there. I think you might be right. Um, and I just want to leave everyone off with a quote that he said, which I feel can be, I mean, like you can even use it today. And I think it says a lot about, um, I'll do the quote. So, um, his quote is, let us be enraged about injustice, but let it destroy, don't let us be destroyed by it. So,
Oh,
and yeah,
so kind of
I think,
speaking to that like peace factor.
yeah, peace factor, and also like it's okay to be like outraged by things. It's important that you do something with that outrage. You don't just like surrender to it,
Yep.
and you don't like let it keep you down. You know what I'm saying? That's what
Yeah.
I get out of it.
Yeah.
But I am going to include in the comments here my sources. There was biography.com I used, which they do a good job, I think.
Yeah, they do. I
And
like that.
I also um, read a PBS article about him that was really good. And there is a TED Talk animated YouTube video on him. So anyone wants 5 minutes long. So it's pretty good.
Okay, sorry, you cut out for a second for me
Oh,
as you were talking
I
about
was
the
just
TED Talk.
saying that I was leaving those. Yeah, it's like a 5 minute long video. So anyone
I
that
love
wants to
TED
check that
Talks.
out. Yeah. And it's animated too, which is nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. You did such an amazing job.
Thanks.
He's so important. I think everyone should know who he is, especially now. Like, could not
Yeah.
could not be more relevant. That's amazing. Now I'm curious.
Yeah.
I want to know like if they actually do teach about him in school at all. If like I feel like we all know Martin Luther King Jr., so I don't know if that just
Yeah.
stuck out to us, but I just think like that's
I
amazing. And to
feel,
be an activist for your whole life, consistent, like to be
yeah.
consistent in your beliefs and to not because a lot of the times like things that we like gay rights for example, everyone can agree in 2020 that gay people deserve rights, but it's like there are certain people who like 30 years ago their views were different, but for someone to be so
Right.
consistent, that's like rare, I think, and that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like so, like, just regardless of like anything else, was like, nope, this is what I believe, everyone should be equal. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was really cool. I was really impressed learning about him and kind of, yeah, like upset because I knew so much about Martin Luther King
Mhm.
and nothing about this person.
Yeah,
So
I'm gonna try
yeah.
to push this
So
back so that's not okay.
tell us
That's better.
tell us about your person. What story you have
Okay.
today?
All right. Let's hope that my phone doesn't overheat. I don't think it will, though.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully, it won't by 4 o'clock. I don't think it will. Okay. So, I am doing the story of Josephine Baker. I don't think I'd ever heard of this woman, but I don't think I'm ever going to forget her because she was dope. She was so cool. And I'm just going to read, is it really loud with traffic because I'm in the front of my house? Okay.
No, you're good.
Um, so I got some things from a couple articles, and one of them had this little like tagline that I thought described her perfectly. Josephine Baker, a singer, a spy, and a civil rights pioneer ahead of her time. So that's what we have coming for us. She was like kind of like your person, like she did so much. She's so cool. So I got all of this from an article called Remembering Josephine Baker, a Radical Bisexual Performer and Activist by Alyssa Goodman from them. I got it from, and that's like where I got a lot of this information.
Okay.
I used a biography from the official site of Josephine Baker and an article from the Australian Ballet because, as you're about to find out, Josephine Baker was a dancer. So, Josephine Baker, first named Frida Josephine McDonald, was born on June 3rd, 1906, in St. Louis, Missouri. Her dad left when she was pretty young, but her mom, Carrie, went on to marry. I thought this was like a kind of funny way to describe someone. Went on to marry a kind but perpetually unemployed man named Arthur. So, what a legacy to leave behind. And they had three more kids together, so she had three younger siblings. And I think the point in them saying that was to show that she grew up without a lot of money.
Okay.
As a teenager, Josephine cleaned houses and babysat for wealthy white families in St. Louis, where she suffered physical and sexual abuse, racism, and experienced homelessness. After years
Oh.
working in traveling black performance troupes where it was difficult to land a long-term role due to racist hiring practices, so a role meaning like in the chorus line. So this is when like dance troupes went around and they did like these big ensembles and
Oh,
you
yeah.
wanted to you like your role was like being in the ensemble. And like everything going on right now, like that was a really like white dominated space, and it was hard for black people to land permanent roles.
Mm-hmm.
She finally caught a break in 1922. She landed a role in the show Shuffle Along, which was one of the first all black musicals on Broadway. It wasn't easy for
Cool.
her. Yeah, it wasn't easy for her to do this though. Initially, she was told that she was too skinny and too dark for the role. So she learned all the dance routines while working as a dresser, which is someone who's in charge of the costumes during a show. So she learned all of the routines so that as soon as a dancer left, she was ready to replace them. And she was the obvious choice
Oh,
because she was like, I know everything. Um,
right. That's
and
some
all,
initiative.
yeah, for real. Although
Mm-hmm.
she gained popularity through her unique, charismatic style of dance and comedy, she moved to Paris 3 years later because of the racism she experienced in America. And in all the articles I read, it really talked about how she witnessed firsthand experienced so much racism living in St. Louis. And then even when she was in New York traveling with that like traveling with the musical Shuffle Along, she
Mm-hmm.
the racism was just really pervasive. It was really, really bad during this time. And I want to
Especially,
say, go for it.
especially in like that area, like down south, down there. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and when they say that she had a unique, charismatic style of dance, and that she like that was really unique, that she didn't just dance, she would make these hilarious facial expressions, and you can look up clips of this. There is a clip of one of her dances that I'm gonna put in the comments, but like it's genuinely funny. Like I was looking and like she was really funny. Even like in 2020, like you watch it and she was so entertaining.
Yeah.
You can just see
I'll
like,
have to watch that.
yeah. It was in Paris where Josephine truly thrived and became a star. She joined a group of black performers at the renowned Theatre des Champs, I'm not going to say it right, Theatre des Champs-Élysées. I think that's how you say it. I also looked it
Perfect.
up. Yeah. I don't speak French. And she became famous for her uh, danse sauvage, I think is how you say it, which translates to wild dance in English, which is also known as her banana dance, um, because of because of the famous banana skirt that she wore. So she literally wore a skirt that was made of 16 bananas, and I'm gonna put the link to the video right now.
Yeah.
Um, and this is what, Lord, I'm doing it on my laptop. This dance is what really made her, um, like what she was known for, and is what made her famous was this banana dance. So,
I almost feel like I can picture it in my head. Like I feel like,
yeah, and so this particular clip is from, like, there's a narrator, it's really, really short, and the narrator kind of talks over it, and this is like a clip that they would play before movies in America, and
uh-huh.
they make the distinction because in France, and as people may know about European countries, they're a lot less modest, so when she would perform this with her troupe in France, she would be topless, but then in America, we're more conservative, so she had this, like,
Uh-huh.
bra that also became like it was a staple part of the costume. Um,
Okay.
so a ballet critic describes her movement like this. She is in constant motion, her body I think it's writhing, writhing like a
Thriving, yeah.
snake, or more precisely, like a dipping saxophone. Music seems to pour from her body. She grimaces, crosses her eyes, wiggles disjointedly, does a split, and finally crawls off the stage stiff-legged, her rump higher than her head like a young giraffe. And when you watch it, it's this really,
Yeah,
like,
I'm watching it
bizarre but
right now.
beautiful. Yeah. Um, this kind of dance was seen as transgressional and almost shocking. Traditional white European dancers performed choreographies that were very linear, poised, kind of that typical style of dance you think of when you think of ballet. And so she was
Hmm.
like a jazz dancer, but even in terms of jazz, a lot of like regular jazz was still very like front facing. Like she used her body in like a really unique way. Josephine used her backside, shaking it as though it were an instrument. So
She's
she
the
liked to shake her
original
booty.
twerker.
Yes, like
She's the
pretty much,
OG
yeah.
twerker.
Yeah. It is important to note, and you can see this when you watch the video, it's important to note that some aspects of this routine could be viewed as problematic and othering today, especially with how eroticized Josephine's exoticness became. You can see this in the clip, like I said. Nonetheless, this is what launched her into stardom, and since Black artists have paid tribute to her, like Beyonce in a live performance in 2006 to commemorate what would have been Josephine's 100th birthday. And I actually have that clip of Beyonce, like, imitating this dance. And, like, I know you're a huge
Oh,
Beyonce fan. I'm a huge Beyonce fan.
I do love Beyonce.
Um, and Laverne Cox in a photo shoot for Cosmopolitan, where she was styled as six of her personal heroines. So she picked Josephine as one of these six women to imitate. And she wore the actual bra that Josephine wore during her dance. Um, in France, Josephine was so famous and beloved, she had her own cosmetic line called Baker Fix. And if you look up Baker Fix cosmetic line, you can find that. And it was like hair gel. And it actually makeup that was meant to make people look darker, which is really
Hmm.
interesting because they wanted to emulate her dark skin because she was beloved, and I'm sure in some ways this is also problematic and othering because it was kind of that part of like her seeming exotic to them, but it also was she was super famous, like she was a celebrity. Um,
Yeah.
And there were dolls sold of her in her iconic banana skirt outfit. Incredibly famous photographers wanted to work with her. She was printed on postcards. She was hugely successful. However, she was never able to garner this success in America because of how racist our country was. Many
That's
historians say
sad.
Josephine, many historians say Josephine never could have done what she did in the US because black women were still playing maids on TV. So France just had more opportunity for her as a black woman to become successful. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
when she performed in the US in 1936 in routines that were created by who would be the future New York City Ballet founder. And if anyone doesn't know, the New York City Ballet is like a really famous ballet company. So he was choreographing these routines that she was performing in the US, and she was met with horribly racist reviews that really highlighted the stark difference in time. Newspapers such as the New York Times published very cruel things about her that I won't even repeat, and she returned to France. So she became a French citizen in 1937 after marrying industrialist Jean Leon. But throughout her life, she was rumored to have relationships with multiple women, including Frida Kahlo. Uh,
Oh,
yeah,
that's interesting.
really interesting. Because of her work, it is possible that Josephine could have been relatively open about her sexuality, but at the same time, she may have kept it quiet for fear of hurting her career. So, kind of similar to what you were saying, I think, how, like, she didn't, oh,
Mm-hmm.
by all accounts, she didn't really hide it, but it's not clear, like, how open she was about it. Um, Eventually,
Mm-hmm.
Josephine would divorce from Jean Leon, as well as a third husband. Her first husband she married very young, and that's who she got the name Baker from.
Mm-hmm.
And she secretly married American artist Robert Brady in 1973. The relationship was platonic, though, so literally there was no
Oh,
like
okay.
romance there, which I think might further suggest that Josephine had relationships with women outside of her marriage, because that was really more like a partnership or a friendship.
Right. Uh-huh. Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, that was a motorcycle passing someone speeding very illegally. Um, as if Josephine wasn't admiral enough, she literally served as a spy for the French resistance during the Second World War. She would carry invisible messages on sheet music and images of German military installations in her underwear. She concealed weapons and Jewish refugees in her home, and I wrote, she was the coolest person ever. She was honored with,
Yeah.
yeah, and this is during World War II, and she was a black bisexual woman. Like, that's incredible. She
Yeah.
was honored with two of France's highest medals of honor for her work, one for bravery and one for equality and liberty. Josephine continued fighting against racism in the States. So she did not give up on the US. She didn't just up and leave. She fought. When she would return to perform at this point as an international icon, she refused to play in segregated venues because they would have the nerve to invite her to perform, and then she'd look out in the audience and there would be no one who looks like her because they weren't allowed to come see her. And she was like, "You're not just going to put me on display to be entertainment for white people. You're going to let my people come see." Or she was like, or I'm not performing. It was Josephine who desegregated Las Vegas, not Sinatra or Sammy Davis Jr., which I didn't know that they're like credited with like desegregating Vegas, but I guess she never gets credit for the work that she did. Um, During the 50s, she worked at the NAACP, and when she was refused lodging in Atlanta during an event, she was, uh-oh, oh no, I lost Kenzie. We lost Kenzie here for a second. Okay. Oh, now you're a little box.
I know. Weird.
Interesting. How do
I'm into
I?
it. It seems
I don't think I can
I
make you bigger.
it's okay. I kind of like it this way because it's your story you're telling right now anyway. So, yeah, I think my internet was getting like not great. So,
Mm,
because you got like kind of like like robotic sounding, and I was like,
Oh no.
so if my expression was blank, it's because I was trying to figure out what was happening.
Oh, okay. That's fine. All right.
But you were talking about her being a spy.
Oh, okay. Um, yeah, so she was a spy, and that's how in France during World War II, and that's how she got two of the highest medals of honor in France. Um, so she continued fighting against racism in the States. When she would return home, she would refuse to play in segregated venues. It was Josephine who desegregated Las Vegas. She does not get credited for it, but she's the one who did it. If you can think about it, Las Vegas is like the entertainment capital of the
Yeah,
US, and she she desegregated Las Vegas.
yeah, that's
During the
awesome.
50s, she worked with the NAACP, and when she was refused lodging in Atlanta during an event she was supposed to speak at, I kind of worded that weird. So she was supposed to do this event in Atlanta, but she couldn't get a hotel or anything because no one would give it to her. Um, she canceled the engagement. She was like, then I'm not coming. And to honor her, the NAACP declared May 20th, 1951, Josephine Baker Day, which I personally think we should still celebrate.
Yeah.
And as if she couldn't get any better, Josephine also had 12 adopted children of all races and nationalities who she called her rainbow tribe because she wanted to prove
Oh,
that people of different backgrounds could live together in harmony. Yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Further, this is when we come full circle with, and the timelines overlap with your story. She was the
Yeah,
only woman to speak at the 1963 March on Washington.
that's so
Um,
cool.
And in her speech, she said, I have walked into the palaces of kings and queens and into the houses of presidents and much more. But I could not walk into a hotel in America and get a cup of coffee. And that made me mad. And when I get mad, you know that I open my big mouth. And then look out, because when Josephine opens her mouth, they hear it all over the world. I love that
I love
quote.
I love everything about that. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't love that that happened to her, but I love like her attitude.
Yeah. She was like a spitfire. Like she was so cool.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on the end here. Josephine performed for the last time on April 8th, 1975 in Paris. Celebrities came to see her perform a medley of songs from her 50-year career, and she was met with a thunderous
Wow.
standing ovation, earning some of her best praise yet. Days later, she slipped into a coma and died of a brain hemorrhage on April 12th at the age of 68. More than 20,000 people took to the streets to watch her funeral procession, and the French government honored her with a 21-gun salute, making her the first American woman buried in France with military honors.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I just
Wow.
wanted to end. This is a direct, this is the last paragraph of that article from them that I got. I thought they worded it perfectly, so I just took this directly from that article. And it says, today, Baker is remembered as one of the first Black sex symbols of the 20th century. Whether or not she was out, the unapologetic force of her sexuality set a standard of possibility and positivity for those following her, which was not just groundbreaking, but earth shattering for a woman of color at the time. And in her lifetime, Baker fought against the racial injustices built into societies around the world, with a special focus on her home country. While much of her work brought about change, and there's still much work to be done, she remains a beacon of what it looks like to use one's platform for good. And then this is a quote from her. People are dying so that you will be able to live in peace. She said this in 1952. Try to understand and love each other before it's too late. And that is Josephine Baker.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I
I just want to say before I forget, apparently